everybody, welcome back to the Claremont Classic Garage. Today we're going to continue with our E4OD transmission. We're going to get all the shift kit components into the actual valve body and, just go through it and make sure it's all clean and everything. But before we start that, I have to fix two screw-ups from the last video. This guy here, the overdrive, I think this is the overdrive clutch piston. Transco gave me a spiral lock ring to put on it instead of this one-piece lock ring, and I forgot. So we're going to do that now. And this here clutch, the direct clutch, or the direct drum, anyway, they gave me a different seal to use in this. So we have to do that also. My bad. I'll be back when I'm done. Here we are. We've got the valve body on the bench. The very first thing we're going to do before we get into anything at all is note the location of these two check balls here and here so we can get them back in the right place when we're done. The first thing we need to do is identify if we have the early style or later style valve body. If we have a later style one, we have to drill a hole here. As you can see, we have the early style, so we do not drill. Step 2, we're going to work on the solenoid pressure regulator, which is this valve here. We don't have to remove the valve. We just replace the original spring with this orange spring. Then we need to push it in and reinstall the lock. Next will be the quick fill valve, which is this guy in here. We will be changing two springs. Discard original retainer, use new end plug, thick end inboard. So we'll just follow along what they say and get that done. There's two clips to hold this one on. One holds this, there's a clip here that holds the spring, and there's another clip here that holds the valve because there's a spring on the other side of it also. Now we can replace the original quick fill valve and spring with the quick fill valve and spring supplied in the shift kit. It's a little tricky getting it down into its bore because its bore is down at the bottom of this bore. So I get it started in and then use a magnet to help it. I also glued the spring into the valve with some grease so it doesn't fall out. Now we can push down the bore with a screwdriver and drop the clip back in. Now we have this little piston that originally was free floating in this bore here, but the kit wants us to reuse the original piston, put this in with the little plug inside the spring, and this new plug that you'll see has a different profile than the original one. They even supply us with a new clip, so we'll just use the bolt, and I'll push this guy in and pop down our new clip. Make sure it's seated. There. And that's that board done. This next step is for any valve body that is cast with the prefix RFF6 or RFF8. And that is F6 is 1996. And F8 is 1998. Theoretically, those two dates are after this transmission was built, as this is a 1995. But we're going to check just in case. And we can see ours is, come on, focus, RFFO, 1990. So we do not need to take that step on this valve body. Next step is we're going to work on the low reverse modulator boost valve. So there's two different ways this can go. If you have the second type valve body, you do this. We've already determined that we have the first type valve body. So all we do is take the retainer out, swap whatever spring is in there with this red spring, and we're done. So let's see. Here it is here. We'll get the retainer out. When you pull these retainers out, just keep your finger over the end. In case something comes flying up. So, there we go. Now, what we're going to do is push this little spring in. Hang on, let me get away from the camera here. There, you just push that guy in far enough that you can get the clip started, and in it goes. There, that's that step done. And as usual, we cross off the steps as we do them. Now, step 2, second type valve body, we ignore all that. First type valve body, that's what we're concerned with. And it's just telling us the check ball locations. I already took a photograph of that, so we're good there. And I'm not going to put them right in now. Pardon me, I'm not going to put them in right now. What we're going to do right now is we're going to put this thing in the solvent tank, give it a little bath, let it dry, and then make sure all the valves are free and working. Now I've got it all blown out and clean. And what we're going to do, we're going to go over this thing and make sure every single valve moves free as a bird. That's the manual valve. It doesn't have a spring. So you just run it back and forth. Now, any of these valves still have a spring against them. And you just make sure that they move nice and free and the spring pushes them back. Be careful what you push on. You got to find an edge on the valve to push. You do not want to push on the edge of the ringlands or anything like that, because that could put a burr on it and really screw up your date. So you just, pardon me, what I'm trying to explain. Let me grab an old valve. Here, where's one? There. So when you're reaching in to push these things, always try to get behind it. Don't grab on that surface there. Even if that seems like that's all there is to grab, you could put a mark on that and that'll chew up the bore or stick the valve. So you just get in behind them and give them a little jiggle, and you'll feel if it's not right. Now we can perform step 2 as per the instructions. Whereas on the second type valve body, the late one, they want you to plug this hole. On the first type valve body, we do not plug the hole. So we just leave it be, and we're going to install our new check balls. They gave us new check balls in the kit, but only for under the separator plate between that and the main housing. They didn't give us enough to replace these. So we're going to put these original ones back in there. And that is this part done. Now we're going to move on to the accumulator body. And there's actually 2 kits that go into this one. First will be the general stuff of the actual shift kit. And then we are also going to be installing this kit, which is a set of replacement accumulator valves made of polished steel that replace the original aluminum ones that apparently have some sort of issue. So we will be following the instructions on here, but using the parts from there, if that makes any sense. Step 1 is to check for a slot here. If there's no slot, you have to drill a bunch of holes and connect them together. But quite plainly, we can see there's a slot. So what we need to do now is flip it over and pull this out. And the other kit, the second kit, gives us a new valve to replace what's in here. We got all the stuff out of that bore, and we'll be replacing this valve with this valve. And the difference is, you can see this orifice here is larger. Now they recommend, if you have a 6-cylinder, like a V6 pickup truck, to leave this one in. But everything else, it says, put this guy in. Now we're going to move on to the third and fourth accumulators. Basically what these things do is they're kind of like a shock absorber in the hydraulic circuit to the clutch. So it's got all these springs behind a little valve, and it just gives like a little dampening effect to the clutch application. But with all the springs they're giving me with this, I think we're going to be firming that up quite a bit. We'll do the fourth one first, and at the same time we'll be installing one of our new valves over here. So all you have to do is pull out this little clip here and get a hold of it. There we go. And they have an M6 threaded hole in there. So all you got to do is find yourself a little M6 screw. I had one, you know, but now I don't. Now we'll just grab it in. You could screw an M6 screw into this little plug, and it helps you pull it out. So let's see what we can get out of this bore here. There's a plug, and it looks like there's another clip in there that holds the, see here, there's another clip back here that holds the actual valve in. Oh, and out came another tiny little spring. That'll be fun to get back in, I can tell you. Come on. This little bugger doesn't want to come out. The oil is like almost like glue. It's free. It's just, there it is. Okay, so you can see here, as they described, the original valve is aluminum and it gets galled up. So we're going to replace it with this steel one that they supplied. It says to reuse this one. So we'll do that, and then we'll get it back in and push in the clip. Well, that was a party. Now we got to put in the spring seat. And it's telling us it wants, in this bore, 3 orange springs. So, and judging by what came out of there, it's already got, like I said, some of one of these kits in there. So we will do that. Big orange spring, medium orange spring, little orange spring. And in they go. Then we push the plug back in. And reinstall the clip. There. I'll repeat this for the other 2 accumulator valves. I won't bore you with the details of that. I will just install the combination of springs that they recommend, and I'll see you when we're done. That is our accumulator body done. We're going to go with the solvent tank, give it a final rinse off and blow out, and then we'll make sure all the valves work. Now we move on to the solenoid pack. And it says basically, if it has this great big hole here, you don't have to do anything to it, just put it in. If it does not have this hole here, they want you to drill a bunch of 1/8 holes in it. Well, that'll do it for now. The rest of this needs to be done when the transmission is being assembled, because it's, you know, I need to put in check balls where they tell me to, and little valves and stuff, and I can't do that while I'm rotating the case. This is all in the case. It'll all fall back out. So we're going to kind of fast forward now to the rest of the transmission being put together, and we'll finish this off. Time travel. Now it's time to deal with the separator plate, and we go through a few things here. If the plate has hole 89, you'll need to install 11 check balls. We know we only had 9. You can see there, that's where hole 89 would be. We don't have it. There's several different separator plates. You can see these notches here are what identify them. Then it says, if plate has hole 90, don't use balls 10 and 11. And we have hole 90. So we don't use 10 and 11, we use 1 through 9, which is what we've got. And then it says, if plate has hole 2T, don't use balls 1, 10, or 11. 2T would be there, and that would mean you don't use 1, 10, and 11. That's an 8-ball separator plate. Again, not this one. Here's a step we will take. This hole here, we drill out with this 1/10,000th drill bit, and then we install this restrictor and peen it over with the 1/4-inch ball they've given us, because for whatever reason they want to make that hole smaller. Well, once we got the little orifice plug in, we flip the separator plate over, sit it on a chunk of steel. I had that balanced on there one time. We sit it on a chunk of steel so we've got something to bang on. Just carefully set this ball here. You know, I had this damn thing sitting on here one time, but I wanted to show you. There we go. I just got to use the other hand. And then we just give it a whack with a hammer. Oh! And then that's stuck in there for keeps. And we've greatly reduced the diameter of that hole. Step 2. There is a maximum of 3 holes, they call them D, that are to be drilled out to 81 thousandths of an inch. The third one would be down in this area here somewhere, and we do not have it. So we will drill this one and this one. They say don't add holes, just drill what's there. Now it's time to install the check balls, the separator plate gasket, and the separator plate. So first thing we want to do is match up our new gasket with our old gasket and make sure it's absolutely the same. The only difference, you can see there's one hole in the new gasket that is not in the old gasket, but I'll keep my thumb with it there. When you put it on the separator plate, whoops, you'll see there's no hole in the metal. So that is a non-issue. We've got all our check balls put in, and they give us an upgraded little ball valve and spring for here. That was, I think it had that stuff in it before. Like I said, somebody had put, there's probably a earlier watered down version of this Tugger kit that had been put in this transmission somewhere down the road. But anyway, it's got the full shebang now. Next is going to be the gasket that goes between the separator plate and the main control body. Now you'll see here we've got a little difference there. And we also have our mystery hole that we found from the other one is a non-issue because it's just metal underneath it. Now, I'm just going to put this in as is. There was a sheet of paper in the gasket set that said these gaskets over the years have evolved, and there's a couple of little changes in them that solve some alleged issues that have cropped up along the way. So I'm going to put this in as is, and we'll see what happens. Now we've come to this, they call this the calibration plate. So what they've done is they've included this plate, and it fits in between the accumulator body and the transmission case, and this allows you to tune the shift quality in regard to the vehicle engine size, weight, and etc. So going by this, you can see here we've labeled the holes. For V8, they want us, there's the ranges of the holes, but it also says diesel or V10. So our 460 engine is probably the equivalent of the V10. But I don't want to push my luck. So we're going to maybe go up on the lower range of this, right in the middle of that, and right in the middle of that, and we'll see where we end up. And that goes together just like that. So we've got our calibration plate sandwiched in between the accumulator body and the separator plate. And all these fasteners torque to 100 inch-pounds, as will the rest of everything in here. We carried on and got the rest of the main valve bodies in 2 pieces. Make sure you remember to put the 2 check balls in there. The solenoid bodies in. Everything is torqued up. Now we need to make sure that our manual valve stays engaged in this through all of its range. So we're park, reverse, neutral, drive, 2, 1. And kind of ram it back and forth a couple of times, because sometimes the shifting is not all that gentle in the car, but it's good. That'll do it for the shift kit install part of the transmission job. Everything's looking good here. The only thing we may have to come back and do is the that calibration plate we put in there. They said those recommendations on drilling out those orifices were to get you in the ballpark, and if you want to firm up the shifts a little bit more, you can get in there and drill them out 10 thou at a time. But we'll see how it is. I'm not worried about including that in this video. It has to be done. If it has to be done, it has to be done. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. I'd like to thank you for tuning in to our little channel here. Hope you'll come and see us again. And until then, this is Kevin saying so long from the Claremont Classic Garage.